R&B music is full of smooth talkers and romantic singers. But what happens when the music stops? Believe it or not, some of the biggest names in the business have a dark side. We're pulling back the curtain to reveal the 20 most difficult, arrogant, and problematic artists in R&B history. One of them even married his best friend's widow. 1. Ginuwine. When you think of 90s R&B, you have to think of Ginuwine. The man gave us the all-time classic Pony, a song that still fills dance floors today. He was part of the Magic Trio with Timbaland and Missy Elliott, and his smooth voice made him a huge star. He was the ladies' man, the total package. But here's the thing not everyone knows. Behind the scenes, Ginuwine developed a reputation for being, to put it mildly, a massive diva. Many people are crazy about his music, but promoters and staff have told stories for years about his difficult behavior. We're talking about rumors of refusing to go on stage unless his specific, and sometimes ridiculous, demands were met. This could be anything from the exact temperature of his dressing room to only having a certain brand of water. This behavior wasn't just for staff. He got into a very public beef with fellow R&B singer Tank. They were part of a group called TGT along with Tyrese, but the group fell apart in a messy way. Tank publicly called Ginuwine out for having an over-the-top ego and being difficult to work with, claiming Ginuwine felt he was a bigger star than the others. It's a classic story of fame going to someone's head. Ginuwine's diva behavior is one thing, but our next artist was famous for something even more frustrating. He was famous for just disappearing. 2. D'Angelo. In the late 90s, D'Angelo was more than a singer. He was a musical movement. His album Brown Sugar was a masterpiece. Then he released Voodoo in 2000 and became the biggest R&B star on the planet. He was a musical genius, a brilliant songwriter, and thanks to that music video for Untitled How Does It Feel, he became a massive heartthrob. And then he was gone. Poof. He vanished from the public eye. What many overlooked was that D'Angelo hated the very thing that made him a megastar. He couldn't stand being seen as just a pretty boy and felt it overshadowed his music. He was so uncomfortable with the fame that he just walked away from it all. For years, fans just waited and waited. He became unreliable, canceling shows and ducking out of the spotlight. He also had a few embarrassing run-ins with the law, including a bad car crash in 2005 where he was seriously injured. It seemed he was battling some serious personal demons. It took him a whole 14 years to release his next album, Black Messiah. That's a lifetime in the music industry. D'Angelo might have been hard to find, but our next singer is known for being hard to talk to, holding grudges for years. 3. Keith Sweat. Keith Sweat is the king of the New Jack Swing era, with hits like I Want Her and Debuter Usorter and Make It Last Forever. He basically wrote the playbook for 90s R&B. He wasn't just a singer, he was a powerful producer and talent scout. He discovered the group Silk and produced their massive hit, Freak Me. But here's the kicker. Working with Keith Sweat could be a nightmare. He has a reputation for being incredibly blunt and holding serious grudges. The thing nobody tells you is that his relationship with Silk, the group he made famous, completely fell apart. They accused him of being a bad mentor and, more importantly, not paying them what they were owed. He's also known for his conflicts with other people in the industry. He's not the type to mince words. If he doesn't like you, he'll let you know. He's had a long-standing Cold War with other New Jack Swing pioneers. He's a legend for sure, but he's a legend you probably don't want to get on the wrong side of. Keith Sweat might be blunt, but our next artist took his personal drama and put it all over the internet for everyone to see. 4. Tyrese Gibson. Tyrese is a man of many talents. He started as a model in a famous Coke commercial became a smooth R&B singer with hits like Sweet Lady, and then transformed into a massive movie star in the Fast and Furious and Transformers films. He's rich, famous, and seems to have it all. But in recent years, Tyrese has become more famous for his bizarre and public meltdowns on social media. It all seemed to start during a very messy and public custody battle over his daughter. Tyrese would post long, crying videos of himself begging to see his child and making all sorts of wild claims. It was uncomfortable to watch, and it just got weirder. He famously started a one-sided beef with his co-star, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, blaming The Rock for delays in the Fast and Furious movies. He posted rant after rant, making himself look unstable and, frankly, a little unhinged. To put it mildly, he was coming apart online. It was a classic case of an artist losing all perspective. Tyrese's online rants are wild, but the next artist on our list is famous for ranting at her own fans in person. 5. Lauryn Hill. There are geniuses, and then there is Lauryn Hill. The miseducation of Lauryn Hill isn't just an album, it's a cultural landmark. It won 5 Grammy Awards in one night, a first for a female artist, and sold over 20 million copies worldwide. She was on top of the entire world. But the thing is, she might be the most unreliable artist in music history. If you buy a ticket to a Lauryn Hill concert, you're rolling the dice. She is famous for showing up late. We're not talking 15 minutes. We're talking 2, 3, sometimes even 4 hours late. Fans will wait in a packed stadium, getting more and more angry until she finally decides to appear. And when she does show up, she often plays her classic songs in ways that are totally unrecognizable. She'll rearrange them into long, rambling new versions that, to be honest, nobody asked for. She's also known for being arrogant and difficult with her band and crew. And let's not forget, she served 3 months in prison in 2013 for not paying her taxes. Lauryn Hill makes her fans wait. Our next artist just makes everyone around him nervous with a long string of physical altercations. 6. Trey Songz. Trey Songz, also known as Trigga, came onto the R&B scene as the next big romantic singer. He had hit after hit like Bottoms Up and Slow Motion, and was known for his smooth voice and good looks. He was set to be the next R. Kelly or Usher, a true R&B superstar. But a very different story started to pop up. What many overlooked was his fiery temper. Trey Songz started getting a reputation for getting into trouble, specifically for getting physical. In 2016, he was headlining a concert in Detroit. When the venue told him his time was up and tried to cut his mic, he didn't just walk off stage. He went into a full-on rage. He started destroying equipment, throwing microphones, and tearing down the set. He was arrested for malicious destruction of property. That wasn't a one-time thing. He's been arrested or accused multiple times for getting into fights and putting his hands on people, both men and women, in places like bowling alleys and clubs. A long list of very serious accusations has followed him for years, painting a picture of a man with a serious anger problem. Trey Songz has a bad temper. But he's a rookie compared to our next legend, a man who ruled his band with an iron fist. 7. James Brown. James Brown, the godfather of soul, the hardest working man in show business. He invented funk music. He's one of the most important figures of the 20th century. His music and his dance moves inspired everyone, from Michael Jackson to Prince. But you see, being the hardest working man also meant he was the hardest possible boss. He was a tyrant to his band. Believe it or not, James Brown would fine his musicians on stage during a live performance. If a guitar player missed a note, or the drummer was offbeat, or if a horn player's shoes weren't shined, Brown would signal to them, and they knew it meant money was coming out of their paycheck. His personal life was even darker. he had a long and scary history of domestic issues, with multiple calls to the police over the years. He also had a very public problem with powerful substances. In 1988, he led police on an infamous high-speed chase across 2 states while under the influence. James Brown was a tough boss. Our next singer was just a tough guy to be around, period. His name became a punchline for bad behavior. 8. Bobby Brown. Bobby Brown started as the bad boy of the pop group New Edition. He was the most talented and charismatic one, but he was also the most rebellious. His onstage antics and backstage fights got him famously kicked out of the group at their peak. He then launched a solo career with the album Don't Be Cruel, which was a massive success. He became one of the biggest stars in the world. But the bad boy image wasn't just an act. Bobby Brown was pure chaos. His life became a string of run-ins with the law, mostly for driving under the influence and other reckless incidents. And then, of course, there was his marriage to Whitney Houston. Their relationship was a storm of personal demons and bad habits. Their reality show, Being Bobby Brown, was a shocking and sad look at their messy lives. He was blamed by many for Whitney's downfall, and while that's not entirely fair, he was definitely not a positive influence. His name just became a symbol for trouble. Bobby Brown's name is linked with chaos. But our next artist has a modern reputation that is, to put it mildly, even more infamous. 9. Chris Brown. When Chris Brown first appeared, he was the total package. He could sing like Usher and dance like Michael Jackson. His first album was a huge hit, and songs like Run It made him a teen idol. He was seen as the clean-cut, talented future of R&B. We all know what happened next. In 2009, on the night before the Grammy Awards, he got into a car with his girlfriend at the time, the superstar Rihanna. What happened in that car was a horrific incident of physical harm that shocked the world and left her badly injured. It changed his career forever. But the thing nobody tells you is that the trouble didn't stop there. It's like he never really learned his lesson. In 2012, he was involved in a massive nightclub brawl in New York City with Drake's crew, where bottles were thrown and people got hurt. He's had other run-ins with the law, including a 2017 incident with his ex-girlfriend, Karrueche Tran, who got a restraining order against him. Chris Brown's history is dark. But our next artist's story is a full-blown nightmare with a legacy of truly evil acts. 10. R. Kelly. For decades, R. Kelly was known as the king of R&B. His list of hits is staggering. I Believe I Can Fly, Bump and Grind, Ignition, Remix. He wrote and produced hits for Michael Jackson, Celine Dion, and many more. He was, musically, a certified genius. But all that time, the darkest rumors in the music industry were following him. Whispers of his interest in very young girls, his bizarre behavior, and his controlling nature. What many overlooked for years were the brave women who tried to speak out. His infamous marriage to the singer Aaliyah when she was just 15 years old was a huge red flag. This was way beyond just being a difficult diva. The Surviving R. Kelly documentary in 2019 blew the whole story wide open. It exposed a pattern of unspeakable acts, manipulation, and control that lasted for decades. He was accused of preying on young people, controlling their every move. He wasn't just a douchebag, he was a monster. He was finally found guilty of his horrible crimes and is now in prison. R. Kelly's crimes are sickening. Our next artist was also involved in truly terrible crimes, including a famous kidnapping case. 11. Rick James. Rick James was the super freak. He was the wild man of funk and R&B, a flamboyant showman with beaded braids and a bass line that could start any party. His music was all about having a good time, and his persona was larger than life. But the wild man thing was not an act. Rick James lived a life of extreme partying and heavy habits, and it led him to a very dark place. The reality of his life was not funny at all. In 1991, he and his girlfriend, who were in a haze of bad choices, held a 24-year-old woman hostage at his Hollywood home for several days. During that time, they harmed her with hot objects. It was a terrifying and brutal incident. He was arrested and out on bail when, believe it or not, he did it again, assaulting another woman. He wasn't just a party animal. He was a danger to everyone around him. He was convicted and spent over 2 years in prison for his crimes. Rick James's crimes were shocking. But our next artist is perhaps the most famous and brutal abuser in music history. 12. Ike Turner. Ike Turner was a true pioneer of rock and roll. He wasn't just in the mix. Many music historians will tell you his 1951 song, Rocket 88, recorded with his band the Kings of Rhythm, was the very first rock and roll record ever made. It was a revolutionary sound. He was a brilliant, innovative musician, a fantastic and influential guitar player, and a master talent scout with an unmatched eye for raw ability. His biggest discovery, of course, was a young, electrifying singer from Nutbush, Tennessee, named Anna Mae Bullock. He brought her into his band, gave her a new name, and together they would conquer the world. He renamed her Tina Turner, and that's where the story turns dark. Incredibly dark. Ike and Tina Turner became one of the biggest acts of the 1960s and 70s. Their live show, the Ike and Tina Turner Review, was a high-energy powerhouse. But behind the scenes, Ike was a monster. He wasn't just a band leader, he was a tyrant. He ruled their entire operation, their finances, and Tina's entire life with an iron fist. As Tina described in horrific detail in her 1986 autobiography, I, Tina, he subjected her to years of unrelenting physical, psychological, and financial mistreatment. He controlled her every move, harmed her in ways that are hard to even imagine, and took every single dollar she earned. His entire legacy as a music pioneer, the man who arguably invented rock and roll, is now completely and rightfully overshadowed by the story of his cruelty. He was a man who built his entire empire on the talent and hard work of the very woman he was systematically tormenting. The story of their split is legendary. When Tina finally found the courage to escape in 1976, she fled in Dallas, Texas, with absolutely nothing but the clothes on her back and 36 cents in her pocket. She had to run across a busy freeway, dodging traffic, just to get to a hotel and beg for a room. Ike Turner's legacy isn't Rocket 88, it's defined by his cruelty. Our next artist's story is less violent, but filled with a different kind of darkness, suffocating paranoia, and a tragic, family-ending event. 13. Marvin Gaye. Marvin Gaye had the voice of an angel. It was pure, smooth, and full of emotion. He was the undisputed prince of Motown, a label full of superstars. He gave us a string of timeless songs that are woven into the fabric of our lives. What's Going On? Let's Get It On. I Heard It Through the Grapevine, Mercy, Mercy Me, and Intimate Healing. He was a sensitive, complex soul who could sing about romance, social justice, and deep spiritual heartbreak with equal, unmatched power. He famously fought Motown for the right to release his masterpiece album, What's Going On?, transforming himself from a pop hitmaker into a serious, groundbreaking artist. But his life was a total mess. Behind that angelic voice was a deeply troubled man. He was in a constant state of turmoil. He had massive, crippling money problems, at one point owing the IRS over $4.5 million. This financial ruin forced him to live in exile in Europe, hiding out in Belgium to avoid his creditors. He also became deeply, cripplingly paranoid, especially as he struggled with his personal demons and a severe addiction. He often believed there were plots against him, that people were out to get him, and he lived in a state of constant fear. This paranoia, his financial ruin, and his inner turmoil built up over the years, creating a pressure cooker of family drama. It all came to a horrible, unbelievable end on April 1st, 1984, one day before his 45th birthday. He was back in the U.S., living at his parents' home, a place he reportedly despised. He got into a heated argument with his own father, Marvin Gaye Sr., reportedly over his father's treatment of his mother. The argument became physical, and his father, a preacher, took a .38 caliber pistol, a pistol Marvin himself had given him for protection, and fatally ended his son's life. It was a shocking, tragic, and horrifying end to a brilliant but tormented life. Marvin Gaye's story is tragic. Our next singer's story is also tragic, but it involves a bizarre, shocking incident with a pot of boiling grits. 14. Al Green, Reverend Al Green, OE. His voice is one of the most recognizable and beloved in the history of music. Songs like Let's Stay Together, Love and Happiness, and Tired of Being Alone are not just songs, they are pillars of 1970s soul music. He had a smooth, silky, unforgettable voice that could go from a gentle croon to a powerful, gritty wail in a heartbeat. He was a massive S symbol, famous for handing out long-stemmed roses to screaming women at his concerts. He had it all: the fame, the money, the voice, and the adoration of millions. But in 1974, at the absolute height of his fame, a horrific event changed his life forever. Al Green was in his home in Memphis with a woman he had been seeing named Mary Woodson. Woodson, who was reportedly already married, was distraught because Green had refused to marry her. While Al Green was in the bathtub, Woodson burst in. She wasn't holding a weapon people would normally think of. She was holding a pot of boiling hot grits. She proceeded to pour the scalding contents all over his back, stomach, and arms. The attack was agonizing. It gave him severe second-degree burns that left him scarred for life and in excruciating pain for months. It was a nightmare. But the horror didn't stop there. After committing this terrible act, Mary Woodson went into another bedroom in the house, found Green's .38, and ended her own life. The entire event was a massive, headline-grabbing scandal and a deep, profound personal trauma for Green. He took it as a sign from God, a divine punishment for his lifestyle. Soon after his recovery, he abandoned pop music, bought a church, and became a full-time gospel singer and preacher. That is a shocking betrayal. But what about betraying your own family? Our next artist married his best friend's widow and then made it even worse. 15. Bobby Womack. Bobby Womack is a certified soul music legend. He's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He had a gritty, powerful, and deeply emotional voice, and he wrote amazing, timeless songs like Across 110th Street and That's the Way I Feel About Cha. He was a true original, a giant of the genre, but his personal life was, to put it mildly, one of the most scandalous and shocking in all of music history. It's a story that still makes people shake their heads in disbelief. Here's the story. Womack was a good friend and protege of the even bigger legend, Sam Cooke. Cooke was his mentor. Womack played guitar in Cooke's band and was part of his inner circle. In 1964, Sam Cooke was fatally shot in a motel in Los Angeles, a brutal tragedy that shook the music world to its core. The music industry was in mourning. Just a few months later, in early 1965, when his mentor's body was barely cold in the grave, Bobby Womack did the unthinkable. He married Sam Cooke's widow, Barbara. The move was so shocking, so fast, that it made him an instant villain in the industry. People were horrified. Sam Cooke's own brothers reportedly beat Womack up. He was blacklisted from radio and his career took a nosedive. But here's the kicker, it gets even worse. Years later, while still married to Barbara, Bobby Womack started an affair with his new stepdaughter, Linda. Linda was Sam and Barbara's daughter, and she was just a teenager at the time. When Barbara found out, she reportedly found them together in a room. The situation became violent, with some reports claiming Barbara actually shot at Womack, grazing his head. It was a level of family betrayal and drama that is just hard to believe. That is a level of family drama that's hard to top. But our next artist had a different kind of drama, one that involved simply not showing up. 16. Sly Stone. Sly and the Family Stone were a revolution. Period. In the late 60s and early 70s, they weren't just a band, they were a movement. They were a multiracial, multi-gender group that broke down every barrier in music. They mixed funk, rock, and soul into a sound that was pure joy and pure genius. They delivered one of the most legendary sets at Woodstock and gave us timeless, unifying anthems like Dance to the Music, Everyday People, and Family Affair. They were, for a time, the biggest and most important band in the world. They were on top of the world. But the band's leader, the brilliant and enigmatic Sly Stone, fell into a deep, dark hole of personal habits. He became a cautionary tale, a poster child for burning out. He became one of the most famously unreliable musicians ever. He was notorious for being hours late to his own concerts. Sometimes, the rest of the band would just be on stage, vamping and playing grooves, waiting for him to arrive, while the audience got angrier and angrier. Other times, he just wouldn't show up at all, which famously caused riots in several cities when thousands of fans were left with no show. It got so bad that promoters were terrified to book him. The band's reputation was in tatters. A famous story tells of the band being booked at New York's legendary Radio City Music Hall, a massive 6,000-seat venue. Believe it or not, only about 800 tickets were sold. Why? Because the public, his own fans, just didn't trust that he would actually show up. He lost his fame, he lost his fortune, and for many years he lost his mind to his demons, becoming a recluse. Sly Stone let his band and his fans down. Our next artist let his band down in a different and perhaps more cynical way, by taking all the money. 17. George Clinton. George Clinton is the mastermind, the mad genius, the ringleader of the psychedelic funk circus known as Parliament Funkadelic. He is the king of P-Funk. This wasn't just a band. It was a sprawling, crazy collective of dozens of musicians that gave us iconic, genre-defining hits like Flashlight, Atomic Dog, and Give Up the Funk, Tear the Roof Off the Sucker. He created a whole universe of characters, complete with a giant spaceship, the Mothership, that would descend onto the stage. He is a true musical genius, but the thing nobody tells you, the dark secret of P-Funk, is that many of the original key members of his band claim they got completely ripped off. While George Clinton lived large as the creative genius and face of the movement, many of his most important musicians, the people who actually wrote and played on those classic hits, ended up with nothing. They sued him, claiming he had forged signatures on contracts, kept all of the royalty money for himself, and put all the publishing rights in his own name. Think about that. The funk was supposed to be a collective, a one nation under a groove. But according to them, only one person was cashing the checks. Some of the key members of P-Funk, the musical architects of that legendary sound, ended up completely broke, and in some tragic cases, even homeless. It's a sad, cautionary story of a creative genius who allegedly built his entire funk empire by taking advantage of his own bandmates. Stealing from your friends is bad. Our next artist was just plain bad to his friends, with an ego so big it destroyed his group right at its peak. 18. David Ruffin. The Temptations were Motown's biggest-selling male group. They were the total package. They had the razor-sharp suits, the smooth, unstoppable dance moves, and the perfect five-part harmonies. And they had a secret weapon, the raw, soulful, gritty lead voice of David Ruffin. When Ruffin joined, he transformed them. He was the voice that gave us their most iconic, timeless songs, like My Girl, Ain't Too Proud to Beg, and I Wish It Would Rain. He wasn't just a lead singer, he was the lead singer, and it all went straight to his head. After My Girl became a #1 hit all over the world, Ruffin's ego exploded. He started to believe he was the star, not the group. He began demanding that the group be renamed David Ruffin and the Temptations, just like Motown had done for Diana Ross and the Supremes. The other members, Otis Williams, Melvin Franklin, Paul Williams, and Eddie Kendricks, saw themselves as equals, and this caused massive friction. He stopped traveling with the rest of the band on their tour bus. Instead, he and his girlfriend at the time, singer Tammy Terrell, rode in a custom private limousine that had a mink-covered floor. He was also becoming completely unreliable, developing a serious addiction, and missing rehearsals and even shows. The other Temptations finally had enough. In 1968, they held a meeting, and when he didn't show up for a gig, they hired a replacement and fired him from the group he helped make famous. But his ego wouldn't let it go. For months afterward, he would show up at their concerts, jump on stage, grab the microphone from his replacement, and start singing just to prove he was still the star. Ruffin's ego was huge. But our next artist had an ego that was on another planet, controlling every tiny detail of his collaborators' lives. 19. Prince Rogers Nelson was a once-in-a-generation or maybe once-in-a-lifetime talent. There was nothing he couldn't do. He could play dozens of instruments at a virtuoso level. He could write, produce, sing, and perform at a level that was almost superhuman. He gave us a mountain of music, including masterpieces like Purple Rain, Kiss, When Doves Cry, and Little Red Corvette. He was a true musical genius, full stop. But working for Prince? It was, to put it mildly, an intense and borderline cult-like experience. He demanded total and complete control over everything and everyone in his orbit. He famously made people he worked with, like the women in his bands, The Revolution, New Power Generation, sign incredibly restrictive contracts saying they couldn't work for anyone else, and in some cases, couldn't even change their hairstyle without his permission. He was known to exile people from his inner circle at his Paisley Park complex for making tiny mistakes in rehearsal or for saying something he didn't like. You could be in one day and completely out the next, banned from the premises. He would call his band for rehearsals in the middle of the night at 2 or 3 a.m. and then make them practice for 12 hours straight until they got a part exactly right. And let's not forget his legendary public battle with his record label, Warner Brothers. To get out of his contract, he believed they owned his name, so he changed it to an unpronounceable symbol, forcing the media to call him the artist formerly known as Prince. He even wrote the word slave on his face in public appearances. It was the ultimate act of defiance from a genius who would be controlled by no one. 20 R&B stars who were biggest jerks in real life. Do you know that behind those smooth vocals, red carpet moments, and charm of your favorite R&B stars lie shocking stories you were never meant to hear? That some of the biggest voices in music have also been the biggest divas, drama magnets, and downright jerks off stage. Here are 20 R&B celebrities who were the biggest jerks in real life. Number 1 on the list is no one else but man who once said he won't stop, and maybe he should have. Mr. Bad Boy for Life, and possibly much worse, 1P. Diddy, aka Sean Combs. P. Diddy has been in the game for decades. Music mogul, fashion king, vodka boss, billionaire. But behind the money, fame, and that million-dollar smile, a long, messy trail of drama, lawsuits, and scandal that makes you wonder if the bad boy brand was more of a confession than a tagline. Let's start with the bombshell that shocked everyone, Cassie's lawsuit. After nearly a decade together, she came out with a lawsuit that sounded straight out of a Netflix documentary. She accused Diddy of controlling her life, isolating her, threatening her, and emotionally tormenting her behind closed doors. Sis said she couldn't leave without paying the price, literally and emotionally. Diddy denied it all, but the case was settled almost immediately. That quick settlement? Red flags anyone. But it doesn't stop there. Over the years, there have been whispers, loud ones, about Diddy's toxic behavior at work. Former staffers and people in his inner circle have talked about a high-pressure, fear-driven environment where Diddy ruled like a king. You speak up, you're out. You breathe wrong, you're replaced. One former employee allegedly said working for Diddy gave them PTSD with diamonds. And don't forget the wild rumors of him using threats, intimidation, and even security teams to keep people quiet. Nothing ever stuck in court, but the streets and the blogs have been talking for years. So what do we have? A legend in the industry, no doubt, but also a man with a reputation that's way darker than his sunglasses at night. Making number 2 on the list is the man who went from being R&B legend to becoming the face of horror. 2. R. Kelly. You probably saw this one coming a mile away. R. Kelly, once hailed as the king of R&B, is now better known as the king of creeps. We're talking about a man who gave us classics like Ignition, Remix, and Step in the Name of Love, songs that used to light up weddings and cookouts. But now, most people hit skip the moment his voice comes on, and for good reason. What we didn't know back then was that behind those smooth vocals was the disturbing truth that R. Kelly didn't just act like a jerk, he was a full-blown predator. For decades, he used his fame, fortune, and charm to lure underage girls into his orbit. He groomed them, controlled them, silenced them with threats and cash, and created what many now call a full-blown sex cult. Yeah, you heard that right, a cult. The most damning part? People knew for years. There were whispers, lawsuits, even a leaked tape back in the early 2000s that showed him doing unspeakable things with a minor. But somehow he kept dodging consequences like he was made of Teflon. That is, until 2019. Thanks to the surviving R. Kelly docuseries, the truth exploded into the public eye. More women came forward. More stories surfaced. And this time, the system finally listened. In 2021, he was found guilty on 9 federal counts, including racketeering, sex trafficking, and abuse of minors. He's now serving 30 years in federal prison, and honestly, he's lucky that's all he got. From Grammy Awards to criminal courtrooms, R. Kelly's fall from grace was epic and long overdue. If there's one person who redefined the phrase "canceled," it's him. He didn't just mess up, he destroyed lives. And now he's exactly where he belongs, behind bars. And then number 3 takes us to the bad boy who just won't behave. 3. Chris Brown. Once the sweet-faced teen heartthrob dancing his way into our hearts with Run It, now better known as the walking definition of unresolved anger issues. If R&B had a problem child, Chris would be the poster boy, and let's just say, the boy's been busy. It all started with that night in 2009 when the infamous assault on Rihanna, his then-girlfriend, happened, and images of her bruised and battered face stunned the world. He didn't just lose endorsements and fans that year, he lost his image. What followed was a weak apology tour, a little community service, And then, well, Breezy got back to business like nothing happened. And somehow, so did his fans. But that wasn't the end. Far from it. Since then, Chris has been involved in countless altercations, including violent outbursts, club brawls, smashing windows at Good Morning America, and messy public fights with other celebs like Drake and Frank Ocean. And don't even get us started on his Twitter rants, where he's cursed out everyone from fans to journalists like he's auditioning for WWE. Let's not forget the alleged sexual assault case in Paris in 2019, which was eventually dropped, multiple restraining orders, and run-ins with the law over everything from probation violations to drug possession. Oh, and he also painted creepy murals on his home, terrifying his neighbors. Because of course he did. And yet, he still sells out arenas. The music still charts. Women still throw themselves at him like he's Romeo in a leather jacket. It's baffling. Chris Brown may have talent for days, but let's be honest, he also has a temper that's done serious damage. He's the kind of guy who can sing "Take You Down" and actually mean it in the worst way. Number 4 is the woman we all refer to as the Queen of Rap, but no one told us she's also got some Royal Rumble skills up her sleeves. 4. Nicki Minaj. Let's get this straight. Nicki isn't just a rapper. She's a one-woman thunderstorm wrapped in pink wigs and designer heels. Her lyrical skills? Undeniable. But her beef portfolio? Whew! Longer than her discography. We're talking full-on brawls with Cardi B, where shoes were thrown like dodgeballs at a royal gala. Yep, actual shoes. And who remembers the Mariah Carey American Idol Warzone? That wasn't a singing competition, it was two divas in stilettos trading shade like Pokemon cards. Nicki's also coming for Miley Cyrus. Miley, what's good, the iconic, clashed with BET, Travis Scott, Lil' Kim, and even her own fan pages. Sis is not afraid to hit unfollow like a mob boss revoking access. Her Twitter fingers? Legendary. One minute she's hyping up her barbs, the next she's unleashing fury over charts, critics, or anyone who dares breathe sideways. Loyalty to Nicki isn't just expected, it's a blood oath. If you're in, you're protected. If you cross her, pack your things, sweetie. And let's not forget the awkward headlines around her husband's criminal past, or that lawsuit involving her brother. While she keeps dodging direct accountability, Nicki often paints herself as the misunderstood genius in a world full of haters. But here's the twist, she still runs the game. Despite the chaos, the tantrums, and the scorched bridges, Nicki continues to dominate charts, trends, and timelines. Petty, Oh, absolutely, but powerful, you better believe it. She's not just the queen of rap, she's the queen of clapbacks, and her crown is superglued on. And just when you think it can't get messier, wait till you hear what the other celebrities on our list brought to the table. One has a temper, another has a courtroom habit, and the other, well, you'll see. 5. Rihanna. Rihanna is a global icon, chart-dominating artist, beauty mogul, fashion trendsetter. But behind that razor-sharp success is an aloof diva persona that sparked controversies. Remember the Savage X Fenty show where a topless model posed in front of a Hindu temple with Ganesh-themed accessories? That move ignited serious backlash, accusations of cultural insensitivity and tone deafness. And rumors trace even farther back. In 2013, she was reportedly escorted out of a mosque for inappropriate behavior. While she issued apologies, many fans felt they were perfunctory at best. Inside the industry, whispers tell of last-minute rescheduling, dismissive treatment toward lesser-known creatives, and a laser-focused, no-nonsense approach that others call cold or detached. She's a force, but some say fame may have cost her empathy. 6. Miguel. Miguel's voice might sound like raw honey, but behind that dreamy falsetto is a man whose offstage behavior has left more than a few people side-eyeing. Sure, he's got the moves, the looks, and the voice that melts hearts, but apparently the vibe shifts real quick when the cameras stop rolling. Let's start with the dive heard round the world. At the 2013 Billboard Music Awards, where Miguel, who was feeling himself a little too hard, had attempted a stage leap that turned into a WWE takedown. Two fans caught the full force of his legs, and while he brushed it off as just excitement, many felt the apology lacked true accountability. One woman even considered legal action. Yikes. And that's not where it ends. Reporters have noted how Miguel sometimes mocks fans for being too trendy or obsessed with hype culture, painting himself as the deeper thinker above the noise. Cool aesthetic, maybe, but not the best way to stay connected with the people who made you famous. Then there are the studio sessions. One insider described working with Miguel as a game of emotional ping pong. 1 minute, he's laser-focused and brilliant. The next, cold, snappy, and gone. There have been stories of last-minute cancellations, studio tension, and collaborators walking away emotionally drained. Even interviews show a certain distance. Charming? Yes. Present? Not always. That silky smooth stage presence doesn't always translate into genuine connection. Some fans say meeting Miguel felt like approaching a wall wrapped in silk, gorgeous but unreachable. He's got the talent, no doubt. But the whispers behind the scenes paint a picture of a man whose emotional aloofness leaves others feeling burned. Is he misunderstood or just moody with a mic? Either way, we're watching and still listening. 7. Tinashe. Tinashe is the full package. She sings, she dances, she performs like she was born on stage. But somehow, collaboration doesn't seem to be her strong suit. Behind the sleek visuals and killer moves lies a trail of shade, subtle jabs, and industry friction that keeps people wondering, is she misunderstood or just messy? First, let's talk about interviews. Tinashe has never shied away from calling out her record labels, claiming they didn't support her vision, shoved her into pop boxes, or treated her like an industry experiment. Fair? Maybe. But then came the name-dropping. She didn't just critique the system, she called out specific collaborators too, implying some were creatively useless or even toxic. Not exactly team player energy. And don't forget the colorism conversation that exploded. Tinashe openly stated that being mixed race made her feel not black enough and criticized the way the industry favors light-skinned artists. Important conversation? Yes. But here's the twist. Critics were quick to point out that she simultaneously cashed in on the same system she was condemning. Brand deals, beauty campaigns, fashion spotlights, everything she claimed to hate, she rocked it. Hypocrite or hustler? You decide. Then there's the behind-the-scenes buzz. Some dancers and creatives who've worked with her say she comes off cold, controlling, and dismissive. One even joked that rehearsing with Tinashe felt like auditioning for her approval at every turn, and the fans split right down the middle. Some ride hard for her independent spirit, while others say her constant blame game screams, "Mean girl in denial." Tinashe's got the goods, but when every fallout starts to look like someone else's fault, maybe it's time to check the mirror. Either way, the girl's got us talking, and that's a power move in itself. 8. Trey Songz. Trey Songz offers sultry tunes and smooth moves, but his offstage narrative is marred by chaos. In Detroit, he reportedly threw objects, struck a photographer with a mic stand, and punched a police officer after his show was cut short, scenes that earned him probation. That incident wasn't a hiccup. It was a pattern. A string of lawsuits followed, including multiple sexual assault and allegations spanning years. Victims claimed he coerced them in vulnerable moments, and powerful settlements and ongoing court battles confirmed the weight of the claims. Public allegations of domestic violence surfaced too. An ex claimed he attacked her and threw her phone off a cliff during a fight. Even masked defiance at a Kansas City game ended with misdemeanor charges. Fans still love his music, but talk circles around entitlement and unchecked behavior. Beneath that velvet voice, critics say, is a pattern of repeated harm and avoidance of accountability. If this lineup feels heavy, hold tight. Next, we're going to be digging from personal traumas to public feuds. Stay tuned, because it's about to get even more jaw-dropping. 9. August Alsina. August Alsina re-emerged in the public eye not just with music, but with deeply personal headlines. Behind velvet vocals lie stories steeped in tragedy and resilience. He lost his brother to cancer, survived serious spinal issues, and weathered an emotional breakdown. Then came the Jada Pinkett Smith entanglement. When Jada publicly confirmed their relationship in her Red Table Talk, Alsina's world changed overnight. He shared intimate texts, confessed he believed he could be the one for her, even though she remained married to Will Smith. Fans quickly dubbed him a hero of honesty or a reckless attention seeker. He's been accused of erratic behavior, walking off stages mid-song, going silent mid-interview, and drifting out from behind forced smiles during TV appearances. His allegiances to family, faith, and raw expression resonate with many, but his unpredictability, like rescheduling shows hours before doors open, has earned him a reputation among promoters as high risk. Some peers laud his authenticity, others call him unstable, even sabotaging. Behind the headlines of heartbreak and truth, there's an artist whose trauma is real, but whose boundary-pushing choices have made him both relatable and unpredictable. 10. The Dream. The Dream, known offstage as Terrius Nash, brought us erotic anthems and superstar songwriting. But his talent also masks personal controversy. Rumors swirled that while writing hits like Umbrella and Bootylicious, he played romantic angles behind closed doors, most notably with Christina Milian, who alleged emotional manipulation and infidelity during pregnancy. Insider accounts speak of tense studio sessions, endless rewrites, unyielding perfectionism, and an aura of impatience that wore creative collaborators thin. Yet his genius is undeniable. He claims his intensity fuels masterpieces, but others say the line between high standards and cruelty is thin. A former backup singer reportedly said, "Working with him felt like pleasing a king. One misstep, and you feel erased." Meanwhile, a songwriter friend confessed she'd walked off a session in tears from feeling belittled. This dichotomy, brilliantly creative yet emotionally draining, anchors The Dream's reputation as both visionary and tyrant. The music industry respects his instinct, but whispers persist. Does greatness excuse descent into fear? 11. Tyrese Gibson. Tyrese Gibson went from baby boy to blockbuster king, and somewhere along the way, his life started looking more like a messy courtroom drama than a movie script. The man can sing, act, and charm a crowd. But his off-screen antics? Phew. Let's start with the receipts. Tyrese was held in contempt of court for skipping out on over $70,000 in child support, and when he didn't pay up, the judge issued an not exactly model father material, but it goes deeper. His ex-wife dropped accusations, claims of physical abuse toward their daughter, saying he struck her multiple times. Tyrese has strongly denied these allegations, but the court battles and emotional fallout left a public scar. Then came the banner stunt. Under a restraining order, Tyrese sent a plane to fly over school with a banner that read, "Daddy loves you." Heartwarming or manipulative? Depends who you ask, but for many, it's like love and more like legal line crossing. And when Tyrese isn't in court, he's clapping back on Instagram. From throwing shade at The Rock to unloading about racism, exes, and being the misunderstood good guy, he's made his page a digital diary of emotional spirals and martyrdom. Some applaud his vulnerability. Others call it emotional blackmail in real time. In 2023, he sued a major retailer over alleged racial profiling, but critics weren't convinced, labeling him dramatic, entitled, and hungry for headlines. One thing's for sure, Tyrese has range. But these days, it's not just his vocals doing the heavy lifting. It's the drama, the lawsuits, the oversharing. Icon or instability in motion. You decide. Either way, you're still watching. 12. Lauryn Hill. Lauryn Hill isn't just an artist. She's a movement, a once-in-a-lifetime voice that shook the world with the miseducation of Lauryn Hill. But behind the legacy lies a trail of late arrivals, no-shows, and unpredictable energy that has left even her most loyal fans questioning, where did Lauryn go? In 2014, fans packed into a venue, jumping with excitement. Minutes before showtime, cancellation. No message, no explanation, just empty air and emotional silence. That wasn't an isolated event. It soon became a pattern where she'd appear hours late, if at all. And when she did show up, the music was rearranged beyond recognition, her speeches cryptic, drenched in talk of spiritual warfare and energy shifts. People paid for nostalgia but got sermons and confusion. Her team hasn't stayed silent either. Former bandmates claim she skipped rehearsals, ignored sound checks, and treated staff unfairly. One crew member even said, "You don't critique Lauryn, she critiques the universe." A genius, yes, but a difficult one. Lauryn has opened up about her mental health struggles, from depression to spiritual burnout. And while many fans deeply empathize, others say the compassion runs thin when tickets are expensive and shows never happen. There's a fine line between creative chaos and professional collapse. Still, her fans hold on. They talk in forums about being hurt but hopeful, disappointed but still in awe. Because Lauryn isn't just an artist, she's a symbol, a beacon for raw truth, black excellence, and creative rebellion. But symbols can shatter under the weight of human flaws. Brilliant? Absolutely. But reliable? Not so much. When you buy a Lauryn Hill ticket, you're not just attending a concert, you're gambling on a mystic experience, or ghosting in real time. We've still got heavyweights to come, and even Queen Bey isn't escaping this list. Want to know how your favorite stars really behave behind the scenes? Then listen up, because the mask is about to slip for real. 13. Chris Brown. Chris Brown is the definition of chaotic brilliance. With vocals smoother than silk and dance moves that rival MJ, he could have gone down in history as the undisputed prince of R&B. But talent alone doesn't erase a rap sheet or a reputation. Since the 2009 assault on Rihanna, the world has watched his public image unravel in real time. There have been arrests for everything from assault to weapon charges, restraining orders, club fights, Twitter feuds, and screaming matches aired live on Instagram. His interviews often start calm and end with something thrown or stormed out. One moment he's dropping back-to-back hits. The next, he's beefing with fellow artists, fans, or his own shadow. In 2016, police swarmed his LA home after a standoff triggered by accusations he pulled a gun on a woman. Charges were later dropped, but the message was loud. Chris can't stay out of headlines. Behind the scenes, producers speak of his unpredictable nature, genius-level creativity that can flip into emotional chaos without warning. Some say working with him feels like walking on eggshells. Others call it electrifying but exhausting. Even his most devoted fans, Team Breezy admit it's hard to defend his actions, even while streaming his albums non-stop. Yet the industry keeps calling. Why? Because when he's focused, Chris delivers. His artistry is undeniable. His live shows, spectacles, his chart stats, unmatched in his generation. But his inner demons are just as loud as his vocals. Is he misunderstood? Or is he just never held accountable long enough to grow? Chris Brown lives in duality, icon and cautionary tale, loved for his gift, feared for his unpredictability. Every comeback feels like deja vu, and for better or worse, he's not going anywhere. 14. Ne-Yo. Ne-Yo rose to fame on charisma and heart-touching hymns, becoming the face of modern romance. But real life wasn't so charming. He fathered children outside his marriage while allegedly pressuring his wife to be sterilized, an act that shocked fans and invited accusations of emotional manipulation. His ex-wife's public revelations painted him as self-serving and evasive. In interviews, Ne-Yo brushed it off as industry stress, but critics say that undermined women's emotional health. Then came comments on gender identity that sparked backlash. Fans felt he spoke without understanding, and his subsequent apology felt lukewarm. Meanwhile, sources say he's been controlling in studio sessions, redirecting ideas harshly, and walking out on collaborators who challenged him creatively. He still sells out tours and headlines festivals, but behind the performer is a man whose romantic narrative has fractured and whose sense of entitlement has sometimes crept into his art. Listeners love his melodies, but these cracks in his armor leave fans asking whether humility can be learned or lost. 14. Erykah Badu. Erykah Badu isn't just a singer, she's a whole frequency. The high priestess of neo-soul has a voice that feels like incense smoke on a summer night, soft, rich, and mysterious. Her music has shaped a generation, and her aura, unmatched. But while fans love her for her spiritual depth and cosmic energy, that same vibe sometimes gets her in trouble. Badu's interviews and tweets often leave people scratching their heads. One minute she's dropping gems on self-love and healing, the next she's defending controversial figures with a calm, "I see the good in everybody" tone. It's not always what she says, but how deeply she believes it, even when it ruffles feathers. When people call her out, she shrugs it off. "You just don't get my frequency." Even within the music scene, not everyone knows how to navigate her energy. Some collaborators praise her as brilliant and transformative. Others, not so much. One fellow artist once said, "Working with Badu is like entering a different universe, and not everyone comes out the same." Translation? She's intense, maybe too intense. On stage, she commands attention with her hypnotic performances and poetic flow. Off stage, she's known for her mystical fashion, incense rituals, and unexpected hot takes. Her fans adore her woo-woo energy, but critics say she's lost in her own world, disconnected from the real one. Is she misunderstood, or is she just comfortable being a walking paradox? Whether you vibe with her or not, one thing's certain: Erykah Badu moves to her own beat, and she's not slowing down for anyone. You either catch the wave or you don't. 16. Beyoncé. Beyoncé, the Queen. A force of nature, from Destiny's Child to the global throne of pop royalty, she's the very image of excellence. Her performances are electric, her visuals are iconic, and her work ethic, unmatched. But behind the spotlight lies a side of Beyoncé that doesn't always glitter. Rumors swirl within the industry about her need to control every single detail, from lighting angles to backup dancers' nail polish colors. Former collaborators whisper that the creative process with her can feel more like obedience school than teamwork. Every second of footage, every lyric, every look seems obsessively curated to protect the brand. It's genius, yes, but also isolating. There was that newsworthy moment when she reportedly pulled out of a major festival appearance just hours before showtime over a minor production issue. The organizers were stunned, scrambling to fix the aftermath. And then there are whispers of artists who were quietly cut from collaborations or edited out of visuals if they didn't match the vision. Some chalk it up to high standards, others call it artistic tyranny. Her fans see a flawless queen, disciplined, focused, unstoppable. But critics ask, at what cost? Does this level of perfection come from passion, or is it driven by fear? Fear of failure, fear of losing control, fear of cracking the image we've all come to worship. Because let's face it, when every move is calculated, rehearsed, and choreographed to feed the Beyoncé myth, it becomes hard to tell where the woman ends and the brand begins. Is she just being excellent in a world that punishes black women for anything less? Or has the pressure to always be perfect turned her into her own prisoner? One thing is clear in Beyoncé's kingdom: perfection isn't optional. It's the law. Think these stories were explosive? Just wait till we jump into this next phase where ego, lawsuits, and raw emotion paint the full picture. Trust me, you don't want to miss the climax. 17. Keyshia Cole. Keyshia Cole didn't just enter the music scene. She tore through it with a voice that carried pain, grit, and the kind of truth people usually hide. Her debut felt like therapy on wax: heartbreak, betrayal, resilience. Listeners connected instantly because she wasn't trying to be polished or perfect. She was raw. She was honest. She was human. But with that emotional transparency came a pattern that's hard to ignore. Keyshia has become almost as known for her conflicts as for her catalog. Public feuds with fellow artists like Michelle Williams and Beyoncé turned Twitter into a battlefield. And then there's the tension with her own family, often broadcasted in real time on her BET reality show. Viewers witnessed blowouts, confrontations, and heartbreaking silences. What was meant to offer a glimpse into her world exposed years of unresolved trauma and deep-seated trust issues. Colleagues and industry insiders have described her as passionate to the point of volatility. She brings her whole self to the room, voice, spirit, wounds and all. But sometimes the lines blur between protecting her peace and pushing people away. There's a guardedness in her that stems from growing up with instability and pain, and it shows. Not in fake smiles, but in how quickly she fires back when hurt or misunderstood. Yet there's no denying her authenticity. She's not pretending to be flawless. She's not hiding the scars. But that same unfiltered presence has made her both magnetic and hard to manage. You can feel her heartbreak in her vocals, and sometimes you feel her heartbreak in her behavior too. Keyshia Cole remains a symbol of truth for many women who were never taught to mask their pain. But the question remains, can unfiltered emotion build longevity, or will it keep breaking the bridges it helps her sing about? 18. Omarion. Omarion has carefully carved out a reputation as the king of inner peace. From meditative Instagram posts to calm interviews where he emphasizes growth, energy, and emotional intelligence, he wears his unbothered title like a badge of honor. But when you peel back that smooth exterior, a different picture begins to emerge, one that reveals tension, estrangement, and a trail of strained relationships. His departure from B2K wasn't the clean-cut career move it appeared to be. Former bandmates claimed he distanced himself not for growth, but for gain, opting to chase solo fame while quietly cutting them off. What fans saw as maturity, those closest to him saw as a calculated move to rebrand. The group's reunion tour resurfaced buried issues, and by the end of it, their dynamic had shifted from brotherhood to business, and not the friendly kind. Then came the unexpected twist. Lil Fizz, Omarion's former bandmate, publicly dated Omarion's ex and the mother of his children. The internet erupted, waiting for a fiery response. But Omarion stayed cool, too cool. While fans praised his composure, some insiders whispered that the silence wasn't strength, it was strategy. A way to maintain control of his image while privately shutting down those who crossed him. People who've worked with him describe him as distant, even dismissive. He's been known to cut off longtime collaborators without so much as a phone call. Emotional conversations? Rare. Transparency? Minimal. The peace and light brand he's built is real, but possibly only skin deep. Omarion is the definition of composed, but in his world, composure might just mean never letting anyone close enough to rattle you. His story is a reminder that sometimes the calmest waters hide the most unpredictable undercurrents. Is it true self-mastery or just well-disguised emotional armor? 19. Raz B. Raz B isn't just a chapter in the B2K story, he's the warning label the music industry keeps trying to tear off and ignore. Among the glitz and teen idol hysteria of B2K's rise, Raz stood out for reasons he never asked for. His outspokenness, especially around the alleged abuse he faced, made him a target not just of internet mockery, but of institutional gaslighting. Branded unstable and problematic, his name became synonymous with chaos, instead of the courage it takes to speak hard truths when no one wants to hear them. Over the years, Raz B's mental health struggles played out on public stages. Tour cancellations, sudden disappearances, emotional videos that quickly went viral. But beneath every outburst or breakdown was a man burdened with trauma that had no safe outlet. He wasn't just fighting inner demons, he was fighting an industry that would rather label him a liability than face its own complicity. What many write off as erratic behavior is actually survival mode. And while the world watched and whispered, few extended the grace his story truly deserves. To this day, Raz carries the weight of being the one who told the truth too early before society was ready to believe him. Yet he hasn't backed down. Despite the backlash, the stigma, and the silence, he continues to push forward fragmented but not finished. 20. Mariah Carey. Mariah Carey, the diva of divas. Vocally unmatched, culturally iconic. And yet often described by former employees and collaborators as a perfectionist with a controlling streak. From outrageous tour demands to behind-the-scenes walk-offs, Mariah's reputation as hard to work with isn't just media fluff. Former assistants have spoken about the emotional roller coaster of working for her. Lavish one moment, emotionally dismissive the next. She's canceled appearances last minute, fired team members over creative differences, and in interviews, sometimes lets her ego do the talking. But make no mistake, her behavior isn't just about entitlement. It's often been a shield, a way of maintaining power in an industry that once tried to control her every move. From her marriage to Tommy Mottola to her public mental health struggles, Mariah has learned to survive by setting her own rules, even if they come at a relational cost. To uncover more intriguing stories among Hollywood celebrities, don't forget to subscribe. Did you know that there are some R&B stars who were huge junkies? From Whitney Houston, for whom her mother once had to get the police involved just to push her into treatment, to Rick James, who, under the influence of cocaine, assaulted a music executive after what was supposed to be a business meeting. Here are 15 R&B stars who were huge junkies. Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston was one of the greatest voices the world had ever heard, but behind the fame, she was fighting battles that few people truly knew. Her first public incident with drug use was in January 2000. Whitney was at an airport in Hawaii with her husband, Bobby Brown, when security found marijuana in her handbag. Before the police arrived, she quickly left the scene. Even though she was charged, the incident showed the world that Whitney was dealing with more than just the pressure of stardom. A year earlier, in 1999, her mother Sissy and close friends had privately tried to stage an intervention to convince her to get help for her drug problems. Whitney, however, refused treatment. Her longtime friend and assistant, Robin Crawford, later revealed that she stepped away from working with Whitney because Whitney would not seek help. Whitney claimed the two drifted apart because of Bobby Brown, but the shadow of addiction was already there. By 2001, Whitney's appearance worried fans. She looked very thin, which led to endless rumors about her health. Her team said it was just stress, but in 2009, Whitney admitted that drugs were the real reason for her weight loss back then. In 2002, she sat down with Diane Sawyer for an interview. When asked about the rumors, she famously said, "Crack is whack." She admitted to using drugs but denied other problems that people accused her of. Later, in a more emotional 2009 interview with Oprah Winfrey, Whitney opened up about just how deep her struggles went. She said she started using drugs lightly before The Bodyguard, but after the movie's success and the birth of her daughter, things became worse. By 1996, she admitted, drugs had become part of her daily life. Whitney entered rehab several times, but the cycle was hard to break. Even when she tried to recover, her mother once had to get the police involved just to push her into treatment. In May 2011, Whitney returned to rehab again, calling it part of her long-standing recovery process. But the fight eventually caught up with her. On February 11, 2012, Whitney Houston was found unconscious in her hotel room bathtub. The coroner later reported that she died from drowning, with cocaine use and heart disease contributing to her death. Bobby Brown. Bobby Brown was one of the biggest names in R&B, known for his music and his part in creating the new jack swing sound with Teddy Riley. But behind the fame, Bobby was living through years of pain, addiction, and trouble. As a child, Bobby went through deep trauma. He revealed later in life that he had been abused by a Catholic priest, something he buried so deeply that he never thought he would talk about it. He admitted that the pain pushed him toward drugs and alcohol, saying it was one of the reasons he abused himself. Bobby often told different stories about when his drug use really began. At one point, he claimed he didn't start using cocaine until after meeting Whitney Houston, but later admitted in a 2009 documentary that he had already been using it before their relationship. Bobby and Whitney first met in 1989 at the Soul Train Music Awards. She later invited him to her birthday party, and from there, their friendship turned into a romance. By 1991, Bobby had proposed, and the two married in 1992 at Whitney's estate. A year later, their daughter, Bobby Christina, was born. The couple even released a duet, Something in Common, with their baby girl making a sweet appearance in the video. But behind the music, their marriage was filled with chaos, rumors of cheating, heavy drug use, violence, and endless tabloid headlines. Bobby was arrested several times for drunk driving, drug possession, and assault. In 2003, he was even charged with battery after attacking Whitney during a fight. Whitney later revealed to Oprah Winfrey that she and Bobby often used drugs together. She said Bobby would sometimes lace marijuana with cocaine, and that his abuse during their marriage went as far as spitting on her when he was drunk. By the 1990s, Bobby's addiction had spiraled so badly that he was cooking cocaine and even using heroin. Things turned even darker in 1993, when Bobby got into serious trouble with a New York gang known as the Preacher Crew. They kidnapped him over a $25,000 drug debt and threatened to kill him. Whitney stepped in and paid a ransom of $400,000 to save him. The incident was kept quiet and never reported to the police. Rick James. Rick James was a singer, songwriter, and producer who rose to fame with his wild style and unforgettable music. He started playing in bands as a teenager before joining the U.S. Naval Reserve to avoid being drafted into the Army. But while his career was climbing, Rick was also heading down a dangerous path with drugs. His struggles began in his teenage years with marijuana and heroin. By the late 1960s, cocaine became his drug of choice, and it followed him for the rest of his life. Even though he once claimed he quit cocaine after spending time in prison, his autopsy later revealed traces of the drug in his system when he died. His addiction often landed him in trouble. In 1984, a friend found him unconscious in his home, and he had to be hospitalized. By the 1990s, the public knew about his heavy cocaine habit. Rick even admitted that he once spent about $7,000 every single week on drugs for 5 years straight. Things became much darker in 1991 when Rick James and his girlfriend Tanya Hijazi were arrested. They were accused of holding a young woman hostage for nearly a week during a cocaine binge, forcing her to perform bad acts, tying her up, and even burning her with the hot end of a crack pipe. The charges were serious, including torture, kidnapping, and assault, and could have put him in prison for life. But while out on bail the following year, Rick got into more trouble. In 1992, under the influence of cocaine, he assaulted a music executive named Mary Sauger after what was supposed to be a business meeting. She said Rick and his girlfriend held her for 20 hours, beating her throughout the ordeal. Years of drug use also wrecked his health. In 1998, he had hip replacement surgery due to years of stage performances and substance abuse. Later that same year, he suffered a stroke after a blood vessel burst in his neck during a concert. On August 6, 2004, Rick James was found dead in his Los Angeles home. His autopsy revealed a long list of substances in his body, including cocaine, methamphetamine, painkillers, antidepressants, and sedatives. His death showed just how much drugs had consumed his life. Franklin Joseph Lyman. Frankie Lyman was a young star with a voice that captured hearts across America. As the lead singer of the Teenagers, he helped shape early rock and roll and doo-wop music. Frankie grew up in a family that struggled to make ends meet. By the age of 10, he was already working as a grocery boy to help support them. His fame came early, but it didn't last. After the Teenagers, Frankie tried to go solo, but his sales slowly dropped. His biggest solo hit was a cover of Little Bitty Pretty One in 1960, which only reached number 58 on the pop charts. By then, the shine of his teenage stardom had started to fade. Behind the scenes, Frankie was fighting a darker battle. At just 15 years old, he was introduced to heroin by a woman much older than him. That addiction stayed with him for the rest of his short life. In 1961, his record label, Roulette, cut ties with him, and he entered rehab. But by 1966, things had spiraled again, and he was arrested for heroin possession. Instead of serving time, he was drafted into the U.S. Army, though he was eventually dishonorably discharged. For a while, Frankie managed to stay clean. He was sober for 2 years, but temptation caught him again in 1968. As he prepared for a comeback recording session, he went back to using heroin. On February 27, 1968, tragedy struck. Frankie was found dead on the floor of his grandmother's bathroom with a syringe by his side. He had overdosed on heroin at just 25 years old. His death certificate listed the cause as acute intravenous narcotism. Frankie Lyman's story became one of music's most painful tales, a boy who had the world at his feet, only to lose it all to drugs before he could even reach his full potential. James Brown. James Brown, known as the Godfather of Soul, built his career on discipline. For most of his life, he demanded that everyone around him stay away from drugs and alcohol. If anyone in his band or entourage broke the rules, they were fired on the spot. In the 1960s, he even let some members go just for drinking, though at home he sometimes served his own mix of moonshine and punch to friends. Brown was serious about keeping his band clean. In 1971, during a performance, 2 of his musicians, Catfish, and Bootsy Collins intentionally took LSD. Brown suspected they were high and fired them right after the show. But even though he was strict with others, James Brown later fell into drug use himself. In the mid-1970s, an aide once gave him a joint laced with PCP without realizing it. Brown thought it was just marijuana, but from then on, stories about him using stronger drugs began to spread. By the 1980s, it was widely believed he had become a regular PCP user. His wife at the time, Adrienne Rodriguez, also used the drug with him. The PCP fueled violent outbursts, and Brown was arrested several times for attacking Adrienne while high. He also smoked cocaine mixed with tobacco and cool cigarettes, and was known to experiment with prescription drugs, saying they gave him extra energy. His paranoia grew worse, and once while driving under the influence of PCP, he claimed that the trees he passed were filled with surveillance technology watching him. In 1998, Brown finally entered rehab for a week to deal with an addiction to prescription medication, but his struggles with drugs never fully went away. When he was admitted to Emory University Hospital shortly before his death in 2006, traces of cocaine were found in his system. Ike Turner. Ike Turner Jr. was an American musician, band leader, songwriter, record producer, and talent scout. Before he turned 30, Ike Turner lived with strict discipline. He didn't drink, didn't touch drugs, and made sure the members of his band followed the same rules. Anyone who broke them was fired. At the time, Ike ran one of the most popular groups on the St. Louis music scene, competing with Chuck Berry's band for attention in the clubs. But everything changed when Ike was introduced to cocaine while performing in Las Vegas. He later said it was two very famous people who first gave it to him, and though names were never confirmed, it was claimed to be Elvis Presley and Red Fox. Ike took the drug home, tried it while writing at the piano, and liked how it kept him awake and full of energy. From that point, cocaine became a big part of his life. By the early 1970s, Ike was heavily addicted. He bought cocaine in large amounts and shared it with friends, later estimating that he spent about $11 million on the drug. The constant use burned a hole in his nasal septum, but instead of stopping, he used more cocaine to numb the pain. Eventually, he moved on to smoking crack. In the 1980s, Ike's drug habit led to several arrests. In 1980, police raided his studio and found cocaine and even a live hand grenade. He was convicted and sentenced to 30 days in jail with probation. Later, in 1989, he was arrested again in West Hollywood for drug charges. In 1990, he was convicted of driving under the influence of cocaine and sentenced to 4 years in prison. Ike served 18 months before being released in 1991. During his time in prison, he finally broke free from his cocaine addiction and stayed clean for more than a decade. He even visited high schools during Black History Month to speak to kids about the dangers of drugs. But in 2004, while trying to help a friend who was struggling with crack addiction, Ike relapsed. After years of fighting the habit, the drug still managed to pull him back in. If you are enjoying this video, appreciate it by giving it a thumbs up, and if you have not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button. Bobby Womack. Bobby Womack was an American singer, songwriter, and guitarist whose career stretched over 60 years. He began singing in the 1950s with his family group, the Valentinos, and also played guitar for Sam Cooke. Over the years, he performed many styles, including R&B, gospel, blues, funk, soul, and more. But behind the music, Womack struggled with drugs. In his memoir, Midnight Mover, he admitted that he started using cocaine in the late 1960s. It was during that same time his marriage to Sam Cooke's widow, Barbara, caused controversy. Many radio DJs refused to play his music, and his career took a hit. This made him turn to drugs for comfort. Still, he kept working as a session musician and became close with Sly Stone. Together, the two would spend days in drug binges. Womack later said, "I was really off into the drugs, blowing as much coke as I could blow, drinking, smoking weed, taking pills, staying up for 7, 8 days straight. Me and Sly were running partners." In 1974, his lifestyle caught up with him. During a recording session, he flipped backward over an amplifier and hit his head, leaving him temporarily blind. By the late 1970s, cocaine had become a serious addiction. Things grew worse after the tragic death of his infant son, Truth, in 1978. Womack said that loss changed him forever. Through most of the 1980s, his addiction deepened and his career slowed down. He toured, but his health began to suffer. In 1985, after playing 14 shows in a row, he was hospitalized for circulation problems in his leg. Toward the end of the decade, he finally checked into rehab and fought his way out of cocaine addiction. Womack's later years were marked by serious health battles. He survived prostate cancer, but went on to face diabetes, pneumonia, colon cancer, and even early signs of Alzheimer's disease. Rudy Lewis. Rudy Lewis was an American rhythm and blues singer, best remembered for his time with the Drifters. He joined the group in 1960 after manager George Treadwell hired him on the spot to replace Benny King. Stepping into big shoes, Rudy ended up singing many of King's songs during concerts. With his smooth voice, Rudy led the Drifters through some of their most famous hits, including Please Stay, Some Kind of Wonderful, Up on the Roof, and On Broadway. He stayed with the group until his sudden and tragic death in 1964. On May 21st of that year, the Drifters were scheduled to record Under the Boardwalk, a song written especially for Rudy. But the night before, he was found dead in his Harlem hotel room. With little time to grieve, the group asked former singer Johnny Moore to step in and record the lead vocals. The next day, in honor of Rudy, they also recorded I Don't Want to Go On Without You with Charlie Thomas on lead. No autopsy was ever performed, but authorities ruled Rudy's death as a probable drug overdose. Those close to him believed it was more complicated, a mix of drugs, asphyxiation, and a heart attack. He was only 27 years old. Ray Charles. Ray Charles is remembered as one of the most legendary and influential musicians of all time. He pioneered soul music in the 1950s by blending blues, jazz, gospel, and rhythm and blues into something completely new. But while his music was groundbreaking, his personal life was marked by a long struggle with drugs. At just 18 years old, while playing in the Maxon Trio, Ray first tried marijuana. He thought it helped musicians be more creative. Soon after, he was introduced to heroin, a drug that would control his life for the next 17 years. His first arrest came in 1955 when police found marijuana and drug paraphernalia backstage with him and his bandmates. Instead of stopping, his drug use grew worse as his fame and fortune increased. In 1958, he was arrested again on a Harlem street corner for heroin possession. 3 years later, in 1961, he was caught with heroin and marijuana in an Indiana hotel room. At the time, Ray admitted he had been addicted since he was just 16. That case was later dismissed, but it was clear his addiction was spiraling. On Halloween night in 1964, things came to a breaking point. Ray was arrested again, this time at Boston's Logan Airport, with heroin in his possession. That incident forced him to face reality. He checked himself into St. Francis Hospital in California and went through a painful 4-day withdrawal. Later, a judge allowed him to avoid prison on the condition that he stayed clean and underwent regular medical checks. In the end, Ray was given probation, a fine, and a suspended sentence. After finally kicking heroin in 1966, Ray poured his experiences into his music. He released songs like I Don't Need No Doctor and Let's Go Get Stoned, and his album Crying Time marked a fresh start in both his career and his life. David Ruffin. David Ruffin was a powerful soul singer, best known as one of the lead voices of the Temptations during their classic 5 years from 1964 to 1968. His voice helped define hits like My Girl and The Way You Do the Things You Do. In 1985, he teamed up with Hall & Oates for a live medley of those songs, which became a hit and even earned Ruffin his first and only Grammy nomination. But behind the music, Ruffin battled serious drug problems. He first sought treatment for his addiction in 1967, yet cocaine remained a constant struggle for him. In July 1987, he spent a night in jail after a raid at a Detroit house. He was charged with cocaine possession with intent to distribute under 1 ounce. He was eventually found not guilty of possession, but guilty of using the drug. His sentence included 2 years probation and 50 days of community service. By 1989, Ruffin had violated his probation 3 times and was ordered into a rehabilitation center. He completed a 28-day treatment program in New York and even managed a successful month-long tour of England with former Temptations members Eddie Kendricks and Dennis Edwards. Tragically, Ruffin's battle with drugs ended when he was just 50 years old. On June 1, 1991, he collapsed at a crack house in West Philadelphia. A friend drove him to the hospital of the University of Pennsylvania, but after nearly an hour of attempts to revive him, he was declared dead from an accidental overdose of crack cocaine. Authorities reported that hours earlier, Ruffin had shared 10 vials of crack cocaine with another man in the same house, Natalie Cole. Natalie Cole was an American singer, songwriter, and actress who rose to fame in the mid-1970s. Her debut album, Inseparable, featured hits like This Will Be, An Everlasting Love, and the album's title track. The success of her debut earned her the Grammy Award for Best New Artist at the 18th Annual Grammy Awards, making her the first African American and the first R&B act to win that award. But as the years went on, Natalie's life began to take a difficult turn. After her 8th album, Don't Look Back, failed to go gold, her career began to lose momentum. She did have a hit with the soft rock ballad, Someone That I Used to Love, but it was not enough to sustain her earlier success. Around this time, her personal struggles, especially her battles with drug addiction, began to attract public attention. By 1981, the press and fans were noticing that Natalie's life was spiraling out of control, and her career suffered because of it. Her drug use began while she was at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. Over time, her recreational use grew into a serious addiction, including heroin and crack cocaine. At one point, to fund her habit, she even worked as a prostitute's tout. Her addiction also led to arrests, including one in 1975 in Toronto for possession of heroin. The consequences of her addiction were dangerous and sometimes life-threatening. There was an incident where she refused to leave a burning building, showing how impaired she was by drugs. In another frightening moment, her young son Robert nearly drowned in their family swimming pool while she was on a drug binge. Recognizing she needed help, Natalie entered a rehabilitation center in Connecticut in 1983. She stayed for 6 months, beginning the long process of recovery. Even after this, the effects of her past choices continued to affect her health. In 2008, she announced that she had been diagnosed with hepatitis C, a liver disease she attributed to her intravenous drug use decades earlier. Natalie explained that the disease had stayed in her body for 25 years and warned that it could still affect addicts who use needles. The illness forced her to cancel several events in December 2015. On December 31st, 2015, New Year's Eve, Natalie Cole passed away at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles. Amy Winehouse. Amy Winehouse was known for her unique contralto voice, deeply personal songwriting, and her mix of soul, rhythm and blues, and jazz. While she was celebrated for her talent, Amy struggled throughout her life with substance abuse, mental health issues, and addiction. By 2005, Amy was in a period of heavy drinking, drug use, and noticeable weight loss. Friends and observers noted that toward the end of that year and early 2006, she seemed to have a brief rebound, which coincided with her work on her album Back to Black. However, her family believes that the death of her grandmother in mid-2006, who had been a stabilizing influence in Amy's life, triggered a deeper descent into addiction. In August 2007, Amy canceled several shows in the UK and Europe, citing exhaustion and poor health. During this time, she was hospitalized for what was reported as an overdose involving heroin, ecstasy, cocaine, ketamine, and alcohol. Amy spoke openly in interviews about her struggles with depression, self-harm, and eating disorders, telling the Los Angeles Times that her drug use had caused her hospitalization and that she really thought that it was over for her at that point. In January 2008, a British tabloid published a video showing Amy smoking crack cocaine and admitting to using ecstasy and Valium. Shortly after this, her father moved in with her to monitor her closely. Later that month, she reportedly entered a rehabilitation facility for a 2-week program. Her father and manager even considered having her detained under the Mental Health Act of 1983 for her safety. In the days before her death, her bodyguard, Andrew Morris, stayed at her Camden, London home. He noticed that Amy had been somewhat intoxicated, but also observed her laughing, listening to music, and watching TV in the early hours. On the morning of 23 July 2011, at around 10 a.m. BST, Morris saw her lying on her bed and tried, unsuccessfully, to wake her. Because Amy often slept late after nights out, he did not immediately suspect anything was wrong. It wasn't until shortly after 3 p.m. that he checked again, noticing she was still lying in the same position. Realizing she was unresponsive and had no pulse, he called emergency services. 2 ambulances arrived at her home at 3:54 p.m. Amy Winehouse was pronounced dead at the scene. She was only 27 years old. Sly Stone. Sly Stone was the frontman of Sly and the Family Stone, and played a key role in creating psychedelic soul and funk music. In the fall of 1969, after moving to Los Angeles, Stone and his bandmates became heavy users of illegal drugs, mainly cocaine and PCP. As the members focused more on partying and using drugs, Stone even carried a violin case filled with illegal drugs wherever he went. Between the summer of 1969 and fall 1971, the band released only one single, "Thank You for Letting Me Be Myself Again." "Everybody is a Star" in December 1969. This song was one of the first to feature the heavy, funky beats that would later define funk music in the next decade. Stone had moved to Los Angeles with his girlfriend, Deborah King. During this period, Stone's behavior became increasingly erratic. The cohesion of the band began to break down, and their popularity and sales started to decline. Band member Greg Errico left the group in 1971 and was replaced by Andy Newmark. Tensions grew between Stone and bassist Larry Graham, who was fired in early 1972 and replaced by Rusty Allen. Despite these changes, Stone continued to struggle with drug use while working on later albums. The band's decline was noticeable, and their drug problems affected both recording and live performances. By the early 1970s, live bookings for Sly and the Family Stone had steadily dropped. Promoters were worried that Stone or another band member might miss a gig, refuse to play, or pass out from drug use. These problems happened regularly, and the band could no longer demand high fees for live shows. Stone married model and actress Kathy Silva on June 5, 1974, during a sold-out performance at Madison Square Garden. But their marriage faced serious challenges. In 1976, their son was mauled by Stone's dog, and Silva later said she could no longer handle that world of drugs and weirdness. By the mid-1970s, Sly Stone's drug use and behavior effectively ended the band. He went on to record several solo albums, but none of them were successful. Etta James. Etta James was an American singer and songwriter, known for her deep, earthy voice that connected R&B and rock and roll. By the mid-1960s, James had become addicted to heroin. To support her habit, she bounced checks, forged prescriptions, and even stole from friends. In 1966, she was arrested for writing bad checks and was put on probation, ordered to pay a $500 fine. In 1969, she spent 10 days in jail for breaking her probation. Her struggles with drugs meant she was in and out of rehabilitation centers for much of her life, including the Tarzana treatment centers in Los Angeles. Her husband, Artis Mills, also had problems with heroin. When both were arrested, he took responsibility and served a 10-year prison sentence, being released in 1981. In 1973, James was arrested again for possessing heroin. The following year, instead of going to prison, she was sent to a drug treatment program. During this time, she became addicted to methadone and often mixed it with heroin. At the age of 36, she spent 17 months in the Tarzana Psychiatric Hospital. In her 1995 autobiography, Rage to Survive, James said that this period in the hospital changed her life. However, even after treatment, James's substance use continued, especially after she got involved with a man who was also using drugs. Later in life, in 2010, she sought treatment again, this time for a dependency on painkillers. Bobby Hatfield. Bobby Hatfield was an American singer best known for performing with Bill Medley as the Righteous Brothers. He sang the tenor part in the duo and performed solo on their 1965 hit, Unchained Melody. On November 5, 2003, Hatfield was found dead in his hotel room at the Radisson Hotel in downtown Kalamazoo, Michigan. Bill Medley and the group's road manager, Dusty Hanvey, discovered him after a security guard let them in. Hatfield had failed to show up at the concert venue as planned, and it appeared that he had died in his sleep hours before a scheduled Righteous Brothers performance. An autopsy later revealed that Hatfield had advanced coronary disease with significant blockage in his arteries. A toxicology report in January 2004 showed that cocaine use had triggered a fatal heart attack. Medley expressed his shock to the Orange County Register, saying, "I never saw him use cocaine. I knew absolutely nothing about it. If I had known, I would have said something to him." Hatfield's sudden death was a tragic end to the career of a singer whose voice had touched millions and made songs like Unchained Melody timeless. What do you think about these stars? Let us know in the comments section. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out our next video for more content.